It was a perfect ecosystem. For 5 years, I had led the engineering team at Cinersoft, watching us grow from a small, frantic startup to a powerful mid-sized company whose technology was becoming standard across the industry. My team was my world, and our code was my language. I built my career on merit, on late nights spent debugging, and on a fierce dedication to the quality of our product. Then, in an effort to scale the management structure, as our CEO Adam put it, he hired someone new. 3 weeks after Linda arrived, she cornered me in the break room, sipping a cappuccino she hadn't paid for, and told me, without a trace of irony, that my work was cute but unsustainable. I had just signed off on the system architecture that would power the company for the next decade. I'm Jane.
I spent my life believing that hard work, genuine talent, and loyalty were the true currencies of success. What you are about to hear is the story of how a brilliant, dedicated team was nearly destroyed by pure, unadulterated incompetence and jealousy. But it's also the story of how loyalty, when pushed too far, can become the most devastating form of revenge. Before we dive into the details of the corporate war I never asked for, please tell me where you're listening to this story from. My history with SynergySoft was personal. I was one of Adam's first hires after he secured his initial venture capital round. He was the visionary, and I was the architect who translated his frenetic, brilliant ideas into stable, scalable reality. My title was head of engineering, and while Adam was the CEO, I ran the department with complete autonomy.
The 25 engineers who reported to me were a family. They were hyper-competent, fiercely protective of their code, and completely loyal to the meritocratic culture I fostered. In my world, the best idea always won, regardless of who proposed it. Adam and I had a relationship built on mutual respect and results. He knew that when he walked into the engineering bullpen, he was walking into my house. He trusted me implicitly, and I valued his dedication to innovation. This trust was the anchor of my entire professional life. As the company grew past the 200-employee mark, Adam felt the organizational strain. "Jane," he told me during a lunch meeting, "you are doing the work of 2 people. We need a buffer. We need a VP of engineering to handle the bureaucratic overhead, the budgeting, the cross-departmental politics.
Someone to manage the noise so you and the team can stay focused on the code." I was hesitant. Introducing a layer of management above me felt unnatural, but I understood the necessity. I helped Adam draft the job description. Highly technical, proven experience in scaling large teams, deep understanding of agile methodology. The candidate pool was excellent. We interviewed several qualified people. Then Adam, under pressure from the board to hire a high-profile name with a big corporate background, unilaterally hired Linda. Linda arrived with a perfect resume, 10 years at a multinational tech giant, a string of impressive-sounding job titles, and a commanding air that filled the room. But within the first week, I knew something was profoundly wrong.
The sensory details were grating. Her high, loud laugh echoing through the quiet halls, the click of her expensive, brightly colored heels on the polished concrete floor, and the overuse of jargon that masked a staggering lack of technical substance. Linda's incompetence was not immediately apparent to Adam. She was a master of the corporate performance arts. Her emails were dense with buzzwords, leveraging synergies, optimizing vertical scalability, and driving disruptive innovation. To Adam, who spent most of his time pitching to investors, this sounded exactly like the polished language of upper management. But to the engineers, and certainly to me, her lack of foundational knowledge was a blaring alarm. In her first official engineering review meeting, she proposed a solution to a server bottleneck that would have immediately crashed our entire system.
When I calmly and methodically walked her through the architecture, explaining why her idea was fundamentally flawed due to memory leaks, she didn't listen. She simply smiled brightly and said, "I hear you, Jane, but we need to pivot to a fail-fast mentality. That's how the bigwigs work." This was the first hint of the everyday horror. Linda was not interested in solving problems. She was interested in sounding important. The team saw it immediately. My lead architect, Marcus, a man of profound technical talent and zero tolerance for nonsense, came to me after that meeting. "Jane, she doesn't know the difference between a load balancer and a light switch. Why did Adam hire her? She has good corporate pedigree, Marcus. We'll manage her," I said, trying to be the calm leader.
But the truth was, Linda was already becoming a problem, and she had immediately sensed the dynamic of the department. I was respected, and she was not. This realization fueled a pure, aggressive jealousy that she quickly directed entirely at me. I represented everything she was failing to be, a leader whose authority was based on competence, not title. Her harassment started subtly. She began excluding me from status updates sent to Adam, forwarding our team's quarterly success metrics as her divisional wins, and constantly criticizing my communication style as too direct or lacking executive polish. She would schedule meetings at 5:30 p.m. and then show up 15 minutes late, forcing the team to wait, simply to assert dominance. I tried to address it professionally. I scheduled a one-on-one with her.
Linda, I said, keeping my tone neutral, I noticed you took credit for the 20% latency reduction in the Q3 report. That was entirely Marcus's initiative and the work of the front-end team. It's important to attribute success correctly for morale. Linda leaned back in her chair, flashing an infuriatingly condescending smile. Jane, you're an excellent operator, but you need to see the bigger picture. I'm the vice president. I report the results. The team still gets their bonuses. Don't sweat the small stuff. Or are you threatened by me taking charge? She used the word threatened. It was a classic projection. I wasn't threatened. I was disgusted. But I didn't realize how perfectly Adam was being played. Linda ensured her office was right next to Adam's. She walked in and out constantly, armed with flashy, jargon-filled reports that looked great on paper but contained zero actual substance. She filled Adam's ear with complaints about the legacy structures in engineering and how Jane's team resists necessary change. Adam, distracted by investor relations and global expansion, didn't dig into the technical details. He just saw a VP who was proactive, talkative, and seemingly making waves. He started to believe Linda's narrative that I was a brilliant engineer who just couldn't handle the people side of scaling. The emotional spiral for me was shock to frustration to quiet fury. I stopped trying to correct her publicly. I became protective, building a wall around my team, managing their daily assignments, and filtering out Linda's nonsensical directives. We ran a parallel government, and for a time it kept us stable.
But the corporate game is relentless. Linda needed a definitive win, and she needed me out of the picture. She knew as long as I was there, her incompetence was exposed. The final micro-hook arrived on a Friday afternoon. Adam called an impromptu meeting. He looked tired but excited. Big news, everyone. I'm heading to our Shanghai offices for a week. A massive partnership deal is on the table, and I need to be there in person. Linda, he said, beaming at her. You're in charge while I'm gone. Total executive authority. Linda's eyes glittered. She looked right at me, and her triumphant smile held a silent, terrible promise. The fox was now guarding the henhouse, and she knew exactly which hen she was coming for first. I knew then that the next 7 days would be the most treacherous week of my career.
My gut told me to quit right then, but my loyalty to the team and my desire to watch Linda inevitably fail kept me rooted to my chair. The stage was set for the collapse. The loyal, competent architect was left vulnerable, and the envious, incompetent VP was given a loaded gun. Adam's plane had barely left the ground before Linda began her destructive purge. With the CEO gone, she had the runway she needed. Her harassment of me immediately escalated from petty exclusion to deliberate hostile obstruction. On Monday morning, she issued a series of ludicrous mandates. She canceled our long-standing weekly code review meeting, the backbone of our quality control, claiming it was a waste of executive bandwidth. Then, she froze access to our cloud-based deployment tool, citing an internal security review that existed only in her imagination.
The entire engineering team was effectively paralyzed, unable to push new features or critical bug fixes. I walked into her office, a knot of cold fury tightening in my chest. Linda, you have effectively halted all production. We have a major bug report from the Delta account. You need to restore access immediately. She looked up from painting her nails, the air thick with the smell of lacquer. I'm the acting CEO, Jane. I'm implementing necessary discipline. The team needs to learn that I'm in charge now, and frankly, your attitude is exactly what's wrong with this department. This was the escalation of the absurd. She was not only incompetent, She was actively malicious, using her temporary power to dismantle the systems that ensured quality purely for spite.
Linda needed a definitive reason to fire me, something that wouldn't look entirely irrational to Adam. Even though she knew my firing was the only way she could establish control over the engineering budget and resources. She scoured my personnel file and my past communication, desperately searching for a single ethical breach or budget overstep. She found a dumb reason on Wednesday. 2 months prior, I had authorized a small $300 expenditure for a specific piece of specialized testing hardware that Marcus needed to debug a complex network issue. I used the miscellaneous supplies budget line as the company didn't have a dedicated specialized debugging tools line item. The following morning, I received a calendar invite for an immediate unscheduled meeting with Linda and the head of HR, Maria, who was clearly uncomfortable and avoided my eye. Linda didn't waste time.
She placed the receipt for the $300 part on the table. "Jane," she stated, her voice tight with artificial authority, "we have discovered a pattern of severe financial non-compliance. You categorized this expenditure incorrectly, an act of budgetary fraud. Given your lack of compliance with my new directives and your open insubordination, I am terminating your employment effective immediately." The accusation of fraud over $300 was breathtakingly ridiculous. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I looked at the two women. Maria, the HR rep, looked genuinely miserable. Linda, however, was triumphant. The look in her eyes screamed, "I won. You lose." "Linda," I said calmly, my voice dangerously low, "I authorized a critical purchase under the nearest available line item to fix a production-level bug."
"This is malicious, and you know it. It's a breach of policy," she cut in sharply. "You have 30 minutes to clear your desk. Your access is revoked." I stood up, collected my few personal items, a framed photo of my dog, a coffee mug, and the handwritten note from Adam, thanking me for saving the company from a 0-day exploit the year before. I looked Linda in the eye. "You should know, Linda," I said, leaning in slightly. "The systems I built are not just lines of code. They are maintained by people who are loyal to merit. You have just destroyed the engineering backbone of this company over a $300 screwdriver. Good luck managing what's left." I didn't wait for a response. I walked out, leaving the stunned silence behind me. As I walked out the front doors, the shame I felt was instantly replaced by a strange, quiet certainty. I have my personal integrity.
Linda had a temporary chair. I sent one final message to the engineering team's private, encrypted chat channel, the one Linda knew nothing about. I messaged, "I was fired for budgetary fraud over a $300 part. I'm out. You all know the truth. Thank you for the 5 years. I'll keep you updated." I hadn't been gone for 10 minutes before my phone started vibrating relentlessly. It wasn't my mother or my husband. It was Marcus. "Jane, we're with you. What do we do?" "You focus on yourselves," I advised. "This is your career, not a protest." "No," Marcus shot back. "This isn't about you or us. This is about what Linda is doing to our code, to our product, to Adam's vision. She's destroying everything we built. We have a plan." The plan was a coordinated, instantaneous act of professional sabotage.
Over the next hour, a domino effect began that delivered the most spectacular, terrifying climax SynergySoft had ever witnessed. Marcus, as my second-in-command, was the leader. At exactly 1 p.m., he called an impromptu, mandatory meeting with the entire engineering staff. 24 engineers, the entire technical core of the company, gathered in the conference room. At 1:15 p.m., Linda, still basking in the glow of her victory, received a simple, unified email. The subject line was stark: resignation of engineering team. The body contained only 3 sentences. Effective immediately, we, the undersigned, tender our mass resignation from SynergySoft. Our departure is in direct protest of the malicious termination of Jane Hayes. We have initiated full documentation handover to HR. We wish the remaining staff the best of luck. Attached was a single PDF containing all 24 signatures. Linda flew into a blind panic. She ran to the conference room, her expensive heels slipping on the polished floor. She found the room empty, save for a few empty coffee cups and 24 laptop chargers neatly placed on the table. A silent, devastating declaration of war. She immediately called Adam in Shanghai, hysterical. "Adam, you need to come back. They all quit. The whole engineering team. It's anarchy. Adam, who had just finished a high-stakes, multi-billion-dollar partnership presentation, was furious. His voice, strained and harsh across the transatlantic line, was not directed at the team. Why, Linda? Why would they all quit simultaneously? What did you do to Jane? The damage was done. The entire company, whose value rested solely on its proprietary technology, was instantly reduced to a hollow shell.
No engineers meant no maintenance, no bug fixes, no feature development, and critically, no technical support for the new massive partnership deal Adam had just secured. The betrayal was complete, but the consequences were only beginning to unfold. Adam returned exactly 24 hours later. He didn't even go home. He drove straight from the airport to the empty engineering wing, which looked like a ghost town. The silence was deafening. He didn't fire Linda immediately. He was too smart for that. Instead, he locked down the office and initiated a brutal, 3-day forensic investigation led by a third-party corporate security firm. He wanted to know exactly how his core business had been decimated in a single week.
The investigation uncovered everything: Linda's fraudulent reporting of Jane's Q3 metrics as her own, the manufactured, petty reason for the termination, the endless stream of false and manipulative information she had fed him about me, and the fact that she was utterly incapable of understanding the basic systems she was now supposed to manage. Adam finally called me. I answered the phone while sitting in my new home office, already laying the groundwork for a competitor company with Marcus and 3 other key former leads. Jane. Adam's voice was heavy with regret and exhaustion. I am so sorry. Linda is gone, terminated for gross misconduct and corporate espionage. The security team found emails confirming she was actively interviewing for a new VP job while sabotaging the department. The board is demanding answers. Our partnership deal is on hold.
I felt a profound sense of vindication, but it was quickly overshadowed by empathy for Adam, the true visionary caught in the crossfire. She played you, Adam, I said simply. She spoke your language, the language of corporate ambition, and I didn't. I spoke the language of code and truth, which you stopped listening to. I see that now, he admitted, a sigh escaping his lips. I need you back, Jane. Name your price. Name your title. You can bring back the team. I'll fire anyone else you want. I paused, looking at the vision board for my new company on the wall. The loyalty of my team, the mass resignation that cost them their stable jobs, was the most valuable asset I would ever acquire. I had my team. I had my integrity. I had everything I needed. Thank you, Adam, I said kindly but firmly.
But you told me I was cute but unsustainable. Linda showed you the consequence of valuing rhetoric over results. My team and I are moving on to build something new, where the people who write the code are the people who run the show. I hung up, feeling the full, clean force of my emotional closure. Linda's incompetence and jealousy had backfired spectacularly, not just costing her a job, but gutting the corporate power structure she had so desperately sought to climb. She thought she would ruin my life. Instead, she inadvertently gifted me the most loyal, talented team in the industry. We launched our new company 6 months later. Adam, having learned his lesson, became our first desperate client, contracting our services to fix the catastrophic mess Linda had left behind. Poetic justice was served. Linda was blacklisted from the industry, and the team she sought to control now charged her former boss exorbitant consulting fees just to keep his lights on. And that's when I realized the greatest power in any corporation isn't the title on the door or the size of the budget. It's the loyalty of the people who know how things actually work.